Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our What's New in Microsoft Inspire edition. So we've come together today just to talk about some of the what we think are the most exciting highlights that came from Microsoft's recent partner event. So Microsoft Inspire, for those of you who don't know, is an event aimed at all the Microsoft partners globally. That's really to talk about Microsoft's key priorities and, most importantly, their investment funding and initiatives that they'll be working with their partners to deliver to their customers. So I'm joined today by John, who's one of our key solution architects in our Microsoft team, and also pleasure to be joined by José from Microsoft, who specializes in the security aspect of stuff, and you'll see security being a kind of key focal point for today. So what was announced? What was announced in Inspire? So lots of things, but I think the thing that probably caught the highlight from for most people, certainly from the clients I've spoken about, is that Microsoft used that opportunity to share the pricing for Microsoft 365 Copilot, as well as providing some additional news about some of the other Copilots that Microsoft have got, because it's important to understand that there's not just Microsoft 365 Copilot in here. So Microsoft shared the fact that Copilot was going to be $30 or about £25 per user per month, on top of the existing Microsoft 365 licensing SKUs, which needs to be either E3, Microsoft 365 E3, Microsoft 365 E5, or soon it'll also support Microsoft 365 Business Premium. So £25 per user per month on top of what they're paying. John, how's that feedback been? What was your initial thoughts on that price?
You know what? When you looked at LinkedIn, Twitter, other social media platforms, like it was a buzz. Like everyone was talking about the pricing. In terms of kind of like my inner circle, we had some people who thought it was quite cheap, some people who thought it was quite expensive, and just some people who thought it would be included within the Microsoft 365 E5 license. So, mixed views. Personally, I think it's quite cheap. When we're looking at £25 a month or $30 if you're in the US, ChatGPT Plus costs £20. It can do a lot more than ChatGPT Plus. It's a lot more productivity, much more, you can get a lot more productivity out of it for your day-to-day work. And when you look at it as a per user, how much do you get out of it? I'm quite surprised. I thought it was going to be a little bit more expensive, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I've seen the same. I mean, it's funny, but for those of you that tune into our shows regularly, I run a fireside chat session, and the feedback from the panel actually was quite mixed. I mean, I had some going, "There's absolutely no way. How are we going to afford to do this?" And then actually, as they start really thinking about the use cases for it, the price kind of trickles away. And I guess we'll cover some of this today. One of the other things that came up was one of the customers I was talking to had spoken about this with some of their team, and they said, "Look, we won't be, just for clarity, we won't be doing this at the moment. We need to build a business case. We need to wait till it's out there." And one of their team apparently said, "Well, could I pay for it? Could I pay for it myself? Because I really think there'd be some value in that product set," which opens up a completely different kind of concept of where is that value, doesn't it?
I love what you're saying.
Could you imagine Microsoft like bringing out a self-service portal where you can buy licenses just for yourself? And if they were to do that, imagine what the uptake would be. Because I was saying I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, but I was like, well, if a company I work for decided not to pay for it for me, I would say take it out of my wages, because I'd be more than willing to pay for it for myself.
Let me tell you something, John. I am at Microsoft. I work here, right? And I pay for ChatGPT, as simple as that, because it helps me so much to actually automate things, get work done quicker. And that's the future. If you are not using it, you're actually missing out. And that is a fact, right?
Well, I think it's really key. And I think, as you say, I think, I mean, we know Microsoft are going big, right, on AI. There was the earnings call a couple of days ago, and I didn't count this. Someone probably used AI to count this, but apparently Copilot was mentioned 46 times in the earnings call, right? And just look at the share prices, right? Just look at the analysts' impressions. and why are we so interested in this stuff? And I think, since November, everyone's been playing around with this stuff, right? They've been, getting ChatGPT then to write their Christmas cards for them and shorten things or whatever. But I think, and I think the kind of bubble kind of dropped a little bit, and now we've seen actually, what can I really use it for? And I think we're going to talk about some of these other aspects today, but now that Microsoft released Bing Chat right into the browsers and stuff, that's become really powerful as well, because it's now about trying to put things in the context of how we work. And I think when we think about, and if any of you haven't tried just Bing Chat, even on your consumer environment, if you haven't got it on enterprise yet, I encourage you to do so, because it's really powerful when you've actually got this little tool running alongside everything you're doing. So whether you're viewing a document within the browser or whether you're just searching for holidays or whatever else, actually having that kind of co-pilot almost next to you to just ask it questions it's a totally different way of working. I've been using it for for summarizing meeting notes that I've taken. I've been using it to summarize blogs and things that I've done. And John, you talked about the price point, right? I use WordPress myself, and that they've now brought out a ChatGPT interface for that, and that's like £11 something a month, just to basically save me copying and pasting text into into a common language. So I think you're right. I think that $30, 25 quid is not actually very much when we think about the potential value that it's going to have.
100%. And as we said earlier, I think Jose said earlier about paying. I pay for ChatGPT Plus as well, and even with that they've taken it down. I think there's some issues, but they took down the third-party integration with Bing. So I think there were some legal issues with what it was actually bringing back. So, it's such a good tool. And I think we've got a video for Bing Enterprise, and I think it would be a good place now to have a look at, play it, and just have a talk about it.
Let's do it.
Right on cue.
In February, we introduced the new Bing, your AI-powered co-pilot for the web that combines state-of-the-art generative AI from OpenAI with search data from Bing. When you ask for help planning a one-day bike ride in Seattle, for example, Bing not only creates a detailed itinerary, but also recommends the warmest day based on the weather outlook. Introducing Bing Chat Enterprise, your AI-powered chat for work. Bing Chat Enterprise brings generative AI to work with commercial data protection. That means user and business data is protected and won't leak outside the organization. When you're logged into Bing with your work account, Bing Chat Enterprise is enabled. You can ask it to create messaging for a new product and safely include sensitive data such as the product specs and pricing. With each response, you are reminded that your company data is protected. You can even ask it to compare your product with a competitor. It will create a table combining your product specs alongside other products for easy comparison. Your data is protected and won't leak outside the organization. Your chat data is not saved? Nobody at Microsoft can view your data, and your data isn't used to train the model.
Awesome. I think that's brilliant, by the way. One of the main things you see on any LinkedIn post about ChatGPT, like negative ones about ChatGPT or any AI, is about data security, data leakage. Where is that data going? And this here, I think, just ticks all the boxes. Where it ticks all the boxes in a nice green, tick box. So you must know it's safe. But in my opinion, that's kind of like a really good step by Microsoft, bringing that enterprise solution for Bing as well. No, you can also protect it with conditional access, put some identity rules behind about logging into it, multi-factor authentication, all that side of things. But one of the things that I have had trouble with, or not had trouble with, but I've had to adjust when using ChatGPT is just making sure that when I put data in, it's not sensitive data, it's redacted. So like no customer information in it, no information for Sicilian, and I don't like to have any type of data in it which we propose. So I normally replace things with Contoso and stuff like that when doing it. But this ticks all the boxes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We saw straight away, actually, on the back of this last week. I mean, it's only a week ago, already of customers asking us, right now we've got access to this, right? And I think what's really key, and you might have seen it on the pricing tab there. I know we'll talk about it a bit more in a minute. Is for most organisations that have got a Microsoft 365 subscription, then there's no additional charge, right, for this. It's enabled, right? And I think you're right. It does two things. Firstly, it gives organization a safe way to use the generative AI services that is ChatGPT, right? And I think Bing always gets a little bit of a bad reputation, right, because it's not Google, and who uses Bing anyway. But actually, the engine behind Bing Chat Enterprise is ChatGPT. It's OpenAI, right? It is the same technology, the same service that's using this. So I think it becomes really powerful, and straight away it's like, well, actually, it makes you think about that point you raised about how many organizations are sharing sensitive corporate information, whether that's a report that they're trying to summarize or an email they're trying to write in a different way, into consumer facing services. Now, Jose, I'm sure you've got some great things to talk about, right, with the kind of information data you're seeing, right? But this is a real issue now, isn't it? We're not just talking about people searching in Google and those kind of things. We're talking about, corporate data leaving the organization in order to use these tools.
You made a great point there, and I have seen many cases where actual employees doing code development just sharing that code with the actual AI. And if you don't pay for the service, that means that you're also sharing. Okay, what we offer at Microsoft, for example, if you were going to use Azure OpenAI, you can build your own machine learning model in Azure, all encrypted, protected, and your data is your data. We do not look at it, we will not touch it, we will not train our model or machine learning models with your stuff. And I think that's the key difference. And we have to make sure that employees and employers also understand that if you're not paying for the service, then you are giving away your data to third parties. As simple as that, right? So it's a key differentiation, and I think it's important that people understand that it's important.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people listening will be thinking, well, so what? I was in an internal meeting actually a couple of weeks ago, and with a colleague that is renowned for writing too much information on PowerPoint slides, right? And he was quite open about the fact that he had taken those bullet points and used, ChatGPT to summarize the meeting notes. Now, there wasn't anything corporately confidential within those slides, right? But that's just one example, right? Everybody's doing this, right? Everybody is using these tools, and I guess the question is do organizations really understand the risk?
Yeah,
I mean,
one of the things that I've a good example as well is I won't name him, but hopefully he's watching. A friend of mine works on a managed service desk, and he has reverse engineered PowerShell scripts for customers using ChatGPT. So that's yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem, isn't it? Is we're not aware. We're not. It's like when most data leaks from an organization, right? Unless you've got those controls in place, it's not usually done maliciously, right? I'm sure there will be people using this stuff maliciously, but I think for the average employee, they are looking at how they can make these things more professional. They are using the intelligence behind these language models to actually help them do better. It's not designed to be, I'm going to share this information outside. And I think a lot of the time, people don't think about it, right? They don't think about the impact that this has. So I think, when we kind of come back to this and this, yes, this applies to ChatGPT, but this also applies to how organizations are going to use things like Copilot internally within their organizations, is that, that importance of data governance, compliance, general hygiene, just goes straight back to the top of the agenda, right? And it's not because we should have been, we've got to do it now because of these tools. We should have been doing these things before. But I think
that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. Like, knowing like this stuff has been available for a long time. So Microsoft Purview, if you're using the Microsoft for your compliance, has been around for a long time. Your DLP, your data protection, your information protection labels, everything are back. It's all been there for such a long time, but it's never been kind of like the forefront of people's minds, especially since COVID, when everyone started working from home and everything started like accelerated to the cloud. It just wasn't on the forefront of people's minds. Now it's coming back, and it's like, oh, we should have done this years ago, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jose, I cut you off.
No, I was going to say that some people, was trying to get clever with ChatGPT, for example, and they were using the browsing option, okay, the plugin, and they were bypassing basically controls and paywalls, as simple as that, using the AI. And that's the thing, right? That's what you need to make sure that you are controlling and you understand the power and the reach of the AI itself. And you want to make sure that when your organization, imagine one of your employees is bypassing one of these paywalls, you might be responsible. If that was done for a corporate device, for a corporate account, I mean, that would come back to you and you will have to deal with the consequences, right?
Yeah, I think one of the other important things, and just slight diversion from the security bit, and we'll come back to it, but I think there's actually a great thing now for organizations is one of the things that, so we run quite a lot of Copilot readiness workshops. So Microsoft have issued some we've covered this in previous sessions, but Microsoft have shared some quite good guidance around kind of the technical enablement requirements for Microsoft 365 Copilot. We're also coming at this quite heavily from a user perspective, adoption perspective. So, the common things around, if you want Copilot to be able to work properly on your organization, your data needs to be in the Microsoft cloud, right? So how do we accelerate that shift from those legacy file shares that we haven't yet moved across? How do we ensure that organizations are sharing documents properly within OneDrive? All those kind of common things, again, that should be done. Are we getting best value out of the product sets and those things? But I think the other thing that comes up a lot is, well, how do people interface with a Copilot, right? How do we talk to it? And I think one of the great things about Bing Chat Enterprise is that this now gives people the context to start thinking about and practicing and tuning the way in which they do talk to these things. And again, if you've enabled this yet, and if you haven't, please talk to IT and get this enabled on your environment, is that you can start to use it, as I said before, with your existing documents, right? So you can open a Word document in the browser, so use Office on the web, and you can ask Bing Enterprise Chat to summarize the document for you. You can ask it to take the key points. You can ask it I ran it on a CV actually that I was for somebody I was interviewing, and I asked it to spot anomalies in the CV. So look for things that contradict other things, and it's really interesting to understand the kind of tone in these things. So I think, again, another great reason to enable it is it gives people the ability to start getting used to talking to a Copilot.
Can I just add on that one, Rob? Because it's a great point. I was looking at a video of Microsoft Sales Copilot that integrates with Dynamics 365. And then what you can ask Copilot is to check a spreadsheet, for example, and help you to identify any trends, anything going on, right? And then you can compare data from the outside and the internet and see what other companies are doing as well, as long as it's public, obviously. And then you know where you stand and you know if you are actually taking the right strategy for the business. That is possible, and it's all automated through AI.
Where's it getting that information from the free ChatGPT, which people upload?
I can't comment on that one, but if it's out there, you might find it.
It will be interesting, though, won't it, to see whether, in 6 months' time, whether the information that is out there in the public domain, right, contains confidential corporate data, right? Because people have been pasting this stuff into these consumer services, which of course use that data, right? They do. Just like if you're at home and you've got a smart speaker or something, and you start talking about things, you're going to get pop-ups in your social media apps, right? Because that's how these services make money, and these consumer services are free. There's a huge amount of compute power behind these things, right? Nothing is free. It's all about where your data comes from. And this is the really important thing to capture about these tools, is you need to ensure you've got good data governance in place, so that you're preventing people from copying and pasting sensitive corporate information into consumer services, right? And I think I think we're going to see a massive drive. I know Microsoft are looking at huge amounts of support to help partners help their customers in moving these things forward. Last year we had lots of investment in data governance workshops and these kind of things, and I believe this is shifted this year more to helping customers trial the technology and actually turn these things on rather than sit there through death of PowerPoint. So if we shift a little bit then and just kind of shift the conversation slightly, I think it's worth us talking about one of the other co-pilots, right? So, we've spoken about Big Enterprise Chat. We've spoken about Microsoft 365 Copilot. Jose, you've just spoken about Sales Copilot, right, which we won't go into today. But Security Copilot, right? That's another one that I think deserves a little bit of airtime. Do you want to kick us off about that?
I think this is the one that gets Jose's juices going. He's smiling already. He's smiling about it already. But we've heard rumblings. I know I've heard Jose talk about it before. There's some stuff from Microsoft Build that came out and some other events as well. But for me, this is the one that's really exciting on the security front and what it can do. Jose, just give us maybe a brief overview just before we go into the video, please.
This year have been mind-blowing for us at Microsoft. We've seen so much change so quickly and so much interest from our customers, of course, in what we're doing. I've seen demos of Copilot, how it works, how it integrates, how it offers a single pane of glass with all the integration, the XDR approach that Microsoft offers in one place, and then the AI take advantage of all of that intelligence and just tell you what you need to do, right? As simple as that. So for me, it's life-changing. I love the product, and I think it's going to change the way we work and we protect our environments.
So we've got a quick video from the Ignite's not net yet. The Inspire keynote. So run the VT.
Copilot is making investigation faster and easier for teams, enabling them to do more with less. So what we're going to see from here is how Security Copilot is going to, from a simple natural language prompt. Let me see here. Let's make sure we're on the right track. Perfect. Okay. From a simple natural language prompt like analyze incident, Copilot then suggests some of the highest priority active incidences that an analyst can dive into and then look into that more. So what we're going to see is how Copilot creates a plain English summary of what's happened. And this is based on trusted authoritative information like Microsoft Defender and log files. And then we're going to see down here below that there's even a diagram of the attack path as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Now, some incident responses, they may require these specialized skill sets that not all analysts have called reverse engineering. And that's where we can look into a piece of malware to see what it does. But with Security Copilot, every analyst can reverse engineer with the click of a button here. So from here, Copilot's analysis of the code is showing us that the malware is trying to get to this group policy object using this ID number from this hidden folder. Now, these details can help teams find other affected devices and clean up. Analysts can also use Security Copilot to help neutralize active threats, and this is using the container prompt bug. So what we see here is how Copilot is laying out some steps for us. The first is to isolate affected devices. Next is revoking access for any compromised accounts. And then finally, of course, is to restore devices to a healthy state.
So it basically walks in.
So that's, a quick video. We don't want to be going on the video for too long, but for me, that's just such a brilliant tool. So the first thing I wrote notice as we done it, the first thing it kind of goes through is it gives you a recommendation of the top security attacks which customers or clients that are currently using it are seeing at the moment. Am I right, Jose?
That's absolutely right. Using the back-end threat intelligence that we have, the 70 trillion signals that we analyze daily, it recognizes them and it goes through and lets you know what's going on, CVEs, vulnerabilities. It knows, so you don't have to look for them. We'll tell you.
So in terms of kind of like you get that top 5, top 10 recommendation straight off the bat. In terms of time saved on that, how long would that normally take an analyst to kind of go out through and figure out and actually, so how much time does it save?
it could be hours, right? Because you never know how far they've gone because they can do previous escalation, they can do lateral movement. It's really hard, right? I've been in investigation, for example, I had a domain controller getting compromised and the hacker was using Mimikatz and they managed to build some persistence. So it took us like 3 days to get rid of the attack, right? Because of the whole thing, the extent of the attack. It's really hard to tell how far they've gone. With these products, I think it's all could be maybe hours, minutes. I don't know how quickly we can actually just go through the whole investigation, depends on what it is, but it's going to definitely ease the operations. And what I'm seeing here is that sometimes if you don't have the skill set in-house, you can use these as a tool, right, to support you in your security journey. That's why I see Copilot like as a tool that will help SOC analysts, security providers to actually offer a better service and better operations.
So we've got quite a few other XDR and SIEM solutions out there, Splunk, Trend, etc., etc. How does this security copilot define Microsoft within, and how does it differ to other products and AI products and security products in the market?
So we don't like comparing to the vendors at Microsoft. We like to say what we do and what we do best, and I think we are leaders right now. I'm not comparing to any other out there, but what I think, we are right now is we are the top vendor, we're the biggest vendor, security vendor in the world. We have the biggest investment in the market around security, and I think you can see the results of this if the co-pilots, right? And what I'm seeing right now is just people migrating from third-party vendors into Microsoft because they see a strategy, they see the value. Hey, do more with less, right? That was our campaign last year, and it's this year as well. You can actually do more with less with Microsoft. And E5 license, you get so much. We're talking about DLP, right? You are a DLP champion, you know this, John. So protecting your data. We're talking about data breaches, getting data out of the internet. You get that sorted out. You have an E5, you get Purview, and you get the job done, right? And this is where we need you guys. And this is your key to our success. Partners are key to our success in this journey of AI, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
I think it's incredible. I think your point is really valid, and I think it's been we talked earlier a little bit about adoption, right, of 365 from a productivity suite perspective, right? But I think security is one of those things that and I still hear it when people kind of say to me, only reason I got a job in security is because of Microsoft, right? And they talk about the NT4, Windows 95 days, those kind of things. But if you look at the investments that have gone into, what is it now, $20 billion over 5 years, I think it's gone up now, across that, Gartner Magic Quadrant leaders in pretty much every category, right?
Forrester Wave.
Yeah, which is which is phenomenal. Yeah, Forrester Wave as well. But yeah, I still see a huge amount of low usage, right? And I think it's just people don't know what's there, right? And it's people think about some of the product sets and don't think, there's been a legacy trawl of other products, third-party products that have been used and just always used. It's not because they're not very good. It's not. I'm not saying they're better or worse, but that integrated approach of having a unified join up across all those layers is key. And of course, going back to that point about how are we going to afford to pay for things like Copilot, right? Outside of those productivity gains and all the things that we know it will deliver, and at some point there'll be Forrester studies and all those kind of things that show that value, right? But until then, one of the best ways of looking at those savings, right? Again, something that we should be doing anyway, is have a look at those security products, have a look at where there is doubling up or tripling up of products, right? Now, I'm not saying everyone should only use one vendor for security. I'm not saying that, but I think there are so many overlaps, right, that we see, and we see it all the time. My team and John and the team spend a huge amount of time working with our customers, helping them to consolidate, and exactly do what you said, Jose, do more with less around security. Yeah,
I think one of the main things that we've looked at, and I think we'll touch on this in a little bit after this discussion here, is the consolidation of security for customers. I've seen some customers using up to 7 to 8 different security products across their organization, spending absolutely thousands and thousands of pounds when it could be consolidated into an E5, into an E5 license, saving, I think, 63% in one case of money.
I'll tell you why it doesn't work. John, sorry to interrupt you, but I'll tell you why it doesn't work having many vendors, many point solutions, because you're creating gaps in your business, right?
Yes,
Some
100%,
solutions just don't talk to the other one. They just can't integrate. They're just not made to be integrated. So you don't have that unified view of your security. And these days, if you look at the other vendors available, they're all talking about XDR. This is the future, right? Before it was like, have your point solution. No, XDR, full view, full visibility, understand what you have your asset inventory, apply compliance, apply security policies, and then you're secure. As simple as that. And then think about, you say, well, how much is that going to cost me in terms of an E5 license? But how much is your business worth to you? As simple as that. If you get ransom, as a small business, it will cost you around $4 million, at least minimum, to recover from a ransomware attack. And then how about the reputational damage that will cost your business? And it's just not worth it, right? People sometimes have to wait until something happens to the business to actually do something. And this is what we're trying to change that mindset, hopefully, with these webinars, just spreading, knowledge that we have as security experts.
Yeah, I think we should part this discussion quickly, because this goes into directly what we're going to talk about next with business premium and some of the key things that I've seen in the marketplace since. But let's go back onto Security Copilot very quickly. Otherwise, we're going to go down a rabbit hole and come back again. So Security Copilot, how do you think that integrates with existing Microsoft security products, and how does it actually make Defender for Endpoint and Sentinel better?
It's all. Some people have said to me, "Oh, is it going to replace Sentinel or Defender?" Absolutely not. It's an add-on. It works with it, right? Mm-hmm. It's a tool that will help you to actually have a better investigation experience and to understand what's actually going on in your environments. Sometimes, for example, you get some hashes. What's that hash mean? I don't know. Copilot will tell you. You get a PowerShell script, as you said. Well, reverse engineer it so you know exactly what it's doing. So it's tool to it, basically.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm guessing it's using the signals from Defender for Endpoint, using the signals from devices and stuff like that anyway. So I don't think
70 trillion every day, every single day. It's just crazy. It's impossible for a human to actually go through all of that intelligence. It's just not. Yeah, can't do it.
So how does that kind of work with the Defender for Office 365? Is there any integrations with Defender for Office 365 and 0-hour purge and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I put you on the spot, but yeah.
if you look at the Microsoft Digital Defense Report 2022, we actually managed to stop 32 billion threat emails, before they even landed to your mailboxes, to your mail servers. We looked after them, we stopped them before they got to you, and that's all thanks to all the threat intelligence, right? That's all integrates. It's a back end. We first take the first steps to block what we can see, and then we need you also to support us in the journey, right? Same way hackers work together, we as defenders have to work together.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited by the security Copilot. I'm excited by all of them, to be fair. M365 Copilot just for making my day a bit easier with presentations and documents and stuff like that, and also the security Copilot.
Documentation. Great point. Documentation. We all hate documentation. This will do it for you. Please do a summary of what just happened, a full incident response, what tools we used, what responses we made. And then you send that to your client. You have a full comprehensive report of all the actions you perform as an MSSP.
Well, that's what's so key. I think one of the demos that I saw of this actually was exactly that point. It wasn't really focused on how it helped in the discovery of what had happened and what they have to do to secure it afterwards, and how do I circumvent it and all that stuff, which is actually really, really powerful because it's doing it in natural language as well. So it's kind of a human, almost like a human type response. But it's actually about how do I create those reports, right? So if there's been a breach, that has to be reported, right, to board level, right? You have to report these things. Actually, how do you articulate that in a good language? And a lot of the time, the team on the desk or on the SOC aren't best placed. Sometimes, I'm careful how I word that, to write those things in a way that the rest of the business can understand, right? And I think that is also some of the real power, to demonstrate what has happened, to articulate it in a diagram that's relevant to your organization, rather than some image that you've got off the internet, and then made those recommendations about what should be done. I think that's some of the real power between these tools, right? Yes, it's about pulling the data from all the other Microsoft services but it's actually about making it business led.
Yeah, I think that's where the attack story becomes really, really powerful. So you can do attack story in Defender for Endpoint at the moment. So what we saw in the video just a moment ago was just instantly the attack story of what happened. So where did the intruder come in from? What did it touch? What file did it touch? What processes did it use? How did it do any type of lateral movement? And how does that look on a map so someone can understand it? Something I'm speaking a lot about. I'm speaking at the Scottish Summit next week with Patricia Rodriguez, is about diagrams and how easy diagrams are to kind of look at, understand, and that's that cheeky little plug there for Scottish Summit next weekend. But I think it's a really good point. Is that diagrams, the story behind it, how things happen are really good, and Security Copilot can just do that in absolute seconds. And the one afterwards just touched upon it again was the reverse engineering of what's happened. José, don't get me wrong, reverse engineering as it stands probably a year or two ago, we're talking hours and hours of time of understanding what's happened, how it's happened, and just the whole reverse, what else could it have touched?
That's not even the problem that we have. The problem is that you don't have the skills, the resources, the talent, people. Try to hire someone who can actually do it. Nearly impossible. I'm telling you, we sometimes have to outsource, not Microsoft, but working for another partner, we have to outsource resources because we just can't find the talent here in the UK or in the US sometimes. As simple as that. Doesn't matter how much money you're willing to pay, and this tool will help you to make that happen so you can make your business more secure. As simple as that. That's how I see it happening and moving forward.
So again, it's another...
Sorry, John.
I was going to say, again, it's another just an extension of, we're not saying replace people with this product whatsoever, but what we're enabling managed service, help desk SOCs, etc., is just to extend their knowledge, extend how they work things, and also make things quicker, make things more streamlined. So, person on the second line in the SOC is able to do these things and actually gain more skills at the end of it as well.
In my opinion, we're not going to replace people because, for example, if you watch the video that we released from the investigation experience, one of the things that popped out was it says, "Oh, there is an issue with a Windows 9 device." Windows 9. What are you talking about? It does make mistakes.
Worst version ever.
Exactly. So we need the people. We need you guys to actually just train it, right?
Windows 9 is so bad.
I think like everything, it's about efficiency, isn't it? It's about bringing more efficiency to us as a partner, right? That helps us. That helps everyone listening. It helps your organisations sort through the chaff and not rely on Googling or Binging this stuff. For what might have happened. It's about insights on your data with that language-based understanding and be able to actually ask things in a human way and get a response back that is relative to the way you're asking, right? And these co-pilots can go as technical as you like or as business level as you like, right? And I think that is to me, that's the real benefit of these tools are going to provide.
So the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about, and it wasn't announced at Ignite. It's not brand new. Inspire. It's not brand new or anything like that. But it's just there was a session on Defender for Business. So Defender for Business is part of the Business Premium offering from Microsoft. That's up to 300 users. Am I right?
Correct.
So it's very under-recognized SKU, I think, isn't it? The Microsoft Business Premium.
And if you look at the SKU in general and what you can get out of it, oh my God, there's so much. So you get Intune, you get the E3 Office 365 E3 suite, you get Windows 10 Windows Enterprise licensing, and Defender for Business. And oh my God, it's so powerful. I've never really worked with Business Premium customers and sort of past like 3 months or so, and I'm just seeing the amount of benefits that people are getting through Defender for Business. So we talked earlier about consolidation of security products. We talked about streamlining everything into one platform for the XDR, etc. But Business Premium has everything that you could possibly really need.
Let me add something on that one, which I actually discovered a few months back. So the threat intelligence, which is threat analytics, which in the Defender portal, which is what we use for threat intelligence, is optimized for SMBs. So all of that data, it's relevant to your business. You're just not being flooded with your rubbish, right? This is targeted at you as a small organization. So it's great. I mean, I love it. And the capabilities are as not quite the same, but the same as a P2, right? I think you're missing one or two things, but you have to think about the integrations as well. You have APIs specific for that licensing as well. And you have 365 Lighthouse, M65 Lighthouse, that will also integrate with that licensing.
So within that,
I think just the, 365 Business Premium, right? Let's just touch on that for a second, because I think that it's a very misunderstood license. I think, we have customers that are, fall into that category, like 300 users, that kind of size, that have got Microsoft 365 E3, for example. Right? I'm not saying that's, without knowing the organizations out there, that might be the right level of SKU for them. But it's certainly more expensive. There will be add-ons that they're having. The E3 SKU doesn't include all the advanced security things. But to tell us a little bit more, John or Jose, about Business Premium, like what's included? Why is that such a powerful SKU?
So, as I said, we've got the Office 365 E3 suite within there. We've got the Enterprise Mobility and Security, which is now includes Entra ID Plan 1, not I guess a new name for is a new name for Azure AD.
Not Azure AD anymore. Yeah, don't say that. Forbidden.
I'm having to go through and change all my documentation and statement of works that I've been created recently. So thank you.
We love doing that, don't we? I know.
Windows Pro, but within that Defender for Business, which is the thing, you get the EDR side of it, so the endpoint detection and response. So amazing integration with Intune as well, for the Defender for Endpoint and Intune. And the thing I think is the most beneficial thing within that part of the product is the automated investigations and the vulnerability management, and also the web content filtering. Again, 3 different products there. So you might be using Koros for vulnerability management. You're probably not using automated investigations at the moment, and you're probably using something completely different for web content filtering. So within one small package there, you're taking 3 products, other third-party products, and putting it all into one SKU. So for me, I just think that's just really, really beneficial.
Yeah, think about, as I just said, authentication, single sign-on, conditional access. Being able to actually offer zero trust across your enterprise, your business. This is possible with this license SKU, which is fantastic, right? Because it would cost you an absolute fortune if you were going to go down the route of point solutions.
So I'm conscious of time at the moment.
It's a mix and match, isn't it, as well? I think a lot of people think that you are, you're limited to 300 seats of this, but you can combine it, right, with Microsoft 365 E3 as well. Yeah. So if you're in a kind of transitional state, or you want to try this, or you've got certain users that don't need some of the full E5 or E3 functionality across Office, actually, it's a really good SKU.
So I'm conscious of the time. We've got 2 minutes until the end of our webinar. Man, I think we could have a podcast. Like we're talking so much about this, but in terms of what do you reckon from what we spoke about today, Rob and Jose? What's the key takeaways for customers at the moment?
Jose, I'll let you go first for Microsoft. What's Microsoft's key advice for customers right now?
So in terms of Copilot, just try to get in early, try to use the capabilities, try to understand AI, what it means to your business. If you have a modern work practice, if you want to move to cloud, this is the way forward. You're missing out if you're not. And I think AI is here to stay. It's only going to get better, and it's going to help us in our journey. And this is where I would say I would advise customers, people to come to partners, trusted partners like yourself, guys, to help them in this journey, right? To actually set this up the right way from the very beginning. That's my advice to customers and partners around.
I'll add a couple of that, and I'll end with you, John. So I know you've got something to touch on at the end. But I think for me, a lot of this is about getting the basics right. Yeah, it's about looking at your investment in productivity, in security, and just aligning those across your 365. If you're buying Microsoft 365 E5, use it, right? Use it. If you're not using those tools, you're wasting money. You're throwing money away. Set up a team and make sure AI is at board level conversation, right? Everybody is talking about it, right? Whether you're technical or not, everybody is talking about AI somewhere, right? And we need to get the mindset right. Think about those use cases. And I appreciate you don't have access to this yet, right? Most of you won't have access to this yet, but think about those use cases, right? A great example is just those, how many minutes per day or hours per day or hours per week could that technology save? But then really think about, by not enabling it or not using it, what are you exposing, right? And how are you going to protect that corporate data from moving outside of your organization? I think really spend some time looking at the tools that you've already got within the product sets, whether that's data loss prevention, whether that's automatic labeling classification, whether that's cloud access security brokers for stopping some of that data being accessed, to really spend some time. Because even if you don't invest and look at Microsoft Copilot, which you will, guarantee you will, your employees are already using consumer services and leaking corporate data.
Yeah, to add to that, something that I've kind of developed, helped develop, at least in my time at Student, is a security assessment. So in my opinion, kind of before we go down that Copilot route, and it's even good practice just to make sure that your tenant is nice and secure and up to best practices, is a Microsoft 365 security assessment. So what we look at is Entra ID, need to say the right name now, Entra ID, formerly Azure AD, MS Defender, Exchange, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, the key components of what everyone is using day to day. How does that look? How are you actually configured to actually be secure? Like, we can talk about Copilot in this sense, but we can also, so you need it anyway. So the damage to an organization from an intruder, just because a setting is not correctly set in your environment, phishing attacks to your CEO, phishing attacks to your CFO and C-level, it's a big thing. Like, we've seen Uber, we've seen big companies get attached just because their security settings weren't set up as they should be. So what we've developed is a security assessment, and I think we've got a QR code at the end of this. So give the QR code a scan. Will there be a discount on the assessment from customers that come directly from this webinar? So yeah, give it a scan, get in touch with us. You can speak to me, you can speak to Rob, and we'll put you through to our security assessment. So guys, just want to, as we outro here, just say big thanks to Jose for joining us. It's been a real pleasure having you. And Rob, good to speak to you as always.
Harvey, thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Goodbye.